Sorry, Bubba. That was loud. All right. Today I want to talk to you about the first look at weddings, the pros and the cons. So every time I meet with the bride and groom, the question comes up about the first look. Either they ask me or I ask them, because it is that important when it comes to your wedding day. And by the first look, I mean, will your groom see you for the first time at the altar, or is he going to see you beforehand? There's, in my opinion, no right or wrong way to do it. I would say my weddings are probably split nearly 50-50. Going both ways. So all I want to do is give you what I think the pros and cons of the first look are. And that way, hopefully you can use that information while you're planning your wedding, or if you've been trying to decide which way you want to do it, to make that decision. So let's start with the pros of having your first look before the ceremony. So the number one factor there is that it really saves you a lot of time. You can see each other and go straight from there and start doing some of the more formal portraits with the bridal party. We can get all the bridal party together, go and get all those pictures knocked out. That way you don't have to do them after the wedding. After the ceremony, it lets you go after the ceremony into just a few family pictures that are remaining of the family that wasn't there beforehand. And then it gets you from there, and you can go in and join cocktail hour, or you can just have a moment, you and your new husband and wife, to just have a quiet moment together, relax, have a drink, have some coffee, whatever you want to do. It just gives you all that much more time. It also can get some of those jitters out of the way that come on wedding day. Another thing it can do is, for the grooms, a lot of times we don't show our emotions the same way in front of groups as we do privately. So if your groom gets to see you beforehand, that might really generate more emotion out of him while it's private than if he's sitting in front of the whole church waiting on those doors to open and for you to come down. One other good thing to consider here too is it gives, as a photographer, it gives us a little more freedom in setting up that first look in ideal lighting situations. It lets us find great places around the venue to set it up. Lets us make sure it's in the best light, because sometimes you don't have a choice of what the light's going to be like at the altar. And so those pictures can turn out a little better from time to time. So those are some of the pros as to having a first look before the ceremony. Now, when we think about some of the cons, number one, it's not traditional. It is not the way that a lot of women, a lot of girls grow up thinking the first look. Their idea is they're standing there, those doors swing open, and down at the altar is their husband, who sees them for the first time. The waterworks, the look in his face, it's just the coolest moment, and probably a moment they've dreamed of their whole life. It really is that magical moment that just can make the day. Those are some of the most amazing pictures and most amazing pieces of video that you'll see is from the groom when he sees his new bride coming down the altar towards him. Some other cons can include the time crunch. Typically, if we're going to do a first look before the ceremony, I'm going to recommend that be done at least an hour and a half to 2 hours prior to the ceremony, so that can push your timeline up, especially if you're having an earlier wedding, or that means you're going to get up that much earlier, into hair and makeup that much earlier, arrive at venues that much earlier. So it does put an interesting swing on the time constraints of the day. And then there can become the issue of, who do you want there? Do you want no one there at all to witness the first look? Or do you want your whole family there and friends there. It's one of those, it's just one more decision that you do have to throw into the day if you decide that you do want to have that first look prior to the ceremony. And so, the last thing to consider also is say you can't decide. You like the idea of seeing each other before the wedding, or the idea of those images, but you really still want that classic traditional door swing open. There's my groom at the end of the aisle. There's my bride coming to me. You can always do the no look first look, which I think really makes some cool images. To me, it looks like torture to the groom to be kind of holding to be wife's hand around a corner, or to be blindfolded and her kissing me. That would be torture, but it really does make some gorgeous images, and those always lead to even bigger emotions at the altar, because that's just built him up so much more in that situation, the anticipation. So that's also something to consider, is that no look first look. And like I said, you've seen those holding hands around a door, around a corner. Really are some super cool images that come from that as well. So that does give you an option if you're really you're not sure. It's kind of I guess in between of those two. Like I said, those are some of the pros and cons. I don't think there's a right way or wrong way. Both ways are going to give you great images and great video footage that you'll cherish for a lifetime either way. Both can be very emotional moments. Both are just really cool moments to me. Some of my favorite images I've ever captured have been of that groom seeing his bride for the first time. The tears are just, he has to close his eyes, or he turns around from her because he just can't look anymore. It really is one of the most special moments of the day. And no matter which way you choose, it really is going to be really, really great. So anyway, there you go. First look at the wedding. I'd like to know, what do you have planned? What did you do at your wedding? Do you wish you would have done it different from however you did it? I'd love to know. I'm Jeff Dobson with J. Richard Photography, and we'll talk to you real soon.